Yep. Perfect. I'm Michael Wilt, Senior Manager of External Relations at TSHAC. I'm joined by Anna Orendane, our Marketing and Communications Specialist. This is the webinar for the 2023 Texas Foundations Fund application period. I see a lot of new faces and a lot of returning faces, and I'm excited to see both of those things. Couple run of house things. I'm going to do the introductory portion of this and then turn it over to Anna. Different people have managed Texas Foundations Fund at TSHAC, depending on how long you've been a grantee. You may have remembered when Katie ran it, and then I did, and now Anna is doing it. And Anna just happens to be the best at doing it these days. And so she's can capably handle anybody's issues or questions, and she's the point person for the duration of the grant period or during the application period or anything. She's the person to contact at TSHAC if you have anything Foundations Fund related. I will monitor the chat. And so if you have questions, feel free to either drop them in the chat or you can raise your hand. I'll try and pay attention to see what's going on, and hopefully we'll pause for questions on occasion as well. Hopefully this should be pretty straightforward, especially if you're a returning grantee. And if you've been a grantee over the past 3 years, you're familiar with the application system that we're using currently, which is SurveyMonkey Apply. We feel like when we switched over to this, it was with grantees' interests in mind, and we're trying to make it as easy as possible on you all. All of the changes that we've made over the past several years they're designed to make this program as easy as possible on you all, so that we can get you funds as quickly as possible, and you can use them in a way that's not very cumbersome and easy reporting at the end of that grant period. So everything we do for this program and the changes we make are with you all in mind to make this as easy as possible. And if you're a returning grantee as well, a lot of this is going to be very familiar to you. We haven't really changed much. In fact, we didn't change anything from last year until this year, with the exception of adding in a first come, first serve provision, which Anna will explain in a little bit. Anna, if you want to continue to the next slide, we'll dive right into this. A little bit about us. Hopefully you all know us, but we're a 501c3 nonprofit that the state legislature set up almost 3 decades ago. We serve the housing needs of low-income and underserved families and communities throughout Texas. That's what we were tasked with by the state, is basically to meet the housing needs of underserved Texans. And if there's any program that we run at TSHAC that meets our mission in this way, it is this Foundations Fund program. It is designed to meet underserved needs of populations across the state, especially when it comes to the types of program activities that we're funding through this. This program was designed with our mission in mind. Broadly speaking, we accomplish our mission by helping developers build housing through our development finance programs, by helping Texans buy their house through down payment assistance and mortgage credit certificate programs. That's how most people know about us. And then we help people stay in their house. And that's where the Foundations Fund plays a pivotal role for Texans in making sure that they can remain in place, either through home repairs or through services designed to maintain their tenancies. About Texas Foundations Fund program, to date, I would note that we've given out more than $8 million in grant funding since this program's inception in 2008. It has grown over the years. This is a program that our board loves and that they continue to commit funding to, and they increase that commitment pretty much year over year. Last year was our most robust grant period ever, and the number of grantees we funded was the most ever. We're trying to make sure also that the awards are sizable in nature for organizations. So this is a program, broadly speaking, that we are committed to long-term and that our board is committed to long-term as well. For the 2023 grant program, again, like I said, not much has changed from 2022 to 2023. We scrapped the matching fund requirement last year, and so that has remained in place. You are no longer required to have documentation of a matching grant for this grant. It's just your grant without any sort of a match required. Last year, we also expanded eligible programs to include housing and financial counseling services. In the past, we had only funded supportive services, but since last year, we expanded that to include housing counseling, financial literacy, anything tied to that. The other huge change we made, which we did this because of feedback we were getting from organizations that weren't eligible, is that we scrapped the requirement to have an audit if your organization's budget is $2 million or less. All we need are financial reviews or a letter of support from an organization or entity that has provided you grant funding. Now, if your organizational budget is over $2 million, then we are asking for audits still, but that threshold of $2 million or less just means that you don't have to provide audits. Last year, for the 2022 round, we also expanded populations to just say anybody that's underserved in your area. And we're very flexible on how you document an underserved population. Any sort of data or narrative or whatever you want to provide that says this population is underserved within our community, that will meet this criteria. Also, we get this question a lot. People have said, how much can we apply for? You don't ever have to apply for a specific dollar amount. That's determined based upon the size of your organization and how much funding our board is committing to Texas Foundations Fund. And we pretty much divide it equally across organizations depending on their size. Last year, we broke it up into small, medium, and large organizations. And depending on which bucket you fell into, your grant was the same. So every small organization, which was determined by budget size, received the same grant amount. And every medium-sized organization received the same grant amount, and same with every large organization. We're trying to make this as equitable as possible. And also, again, with understanding that we don't want you to say, hey, this is how much we're applying for. It's predetermined based upon our allocation and how that's divvied up. The last thing I will note is new for this year, and this was mainly we want to, like I said earlier, we want to make sure that we're giving a sizable grant to organizations. We funded 54 organizations last year, which is the most we ever did, and we felt like if we go beyond that, that the awards continue to shrink in size, and it wouldn't make a big difference for an organization if the grant amount continues to shrink. So we're trying to make sure that the awards are sizable in nature, and if necessary, we will have a cutoff of X number of organizations. We don't know what that would be, and we don't anticipate excluding anybody. That's not our intent at all. It's just a provision that our board wanted to put in there in case we got to like 100 organizations and we were going to end up giving $5,000 per organization or $10,000 per organization. Well, that's just not that much. So again, we encourage you always to apply early, and we will consider applications as they come in, but we don't anticipate and we don't want to use this cutoff. It's just something that we're keeping in our back pocket in case that arises. Real quick over the partner requirements, and after this slide, I'll turn it over to Anna. The eligibility remains the same from last year. You do have to be a 501c3 nonprofit. You have to have 3 years of operating any sort of housing program in Texas. And then you have to have 2 years of operating the program you're seeking grant funding for. So 3 years for any housing related activities, but 2 years for the program you're seeking funding for. A couple other ones I'll highlight on this. Like I mentioned, we're trying to meet the needs of underserved Texans, and we feel like that's 50% AMFI and below. So all the grant funds have to serve that income level. Like I mentioned, the $2 million threshold for your organization's budget, if it's above that, we require the audits. If it's below that, we don't. And then, like I just mentioned, you have to use this to serve an underserved population. With that, I will pause and I'll turn it over to Anna. She'll take it from here.
Thanks, Michael. So if you're interested and you meet the eligibility requirements, are the eligible programs that you can use are a rehabilitation program that provides critical repairs to existing homeowners or to rental tenants if your organization owns that property. You can also apply for grant money if you provide supportive services such as case management, some mental or physical health services, employment services, substance abuse services, as well as homebuyer and housing and financial counseling. Eligible expenses also can include administrative costs, staff salaries, travel expenses, as well as any fees for materials, contractors, invoices for construction. Again, all of this stays the same as it was last year. But so if you're a returning grantee, all this should sound familiar. As far as funding availability and timeline goes, May 26th is our deadline. We want you to have all your applications in by 5 o'clock Central Time. And make sure to hit submit. I'll go over it in the application review portion of this presentation, but the most important part is just to hit the green submit button. I'll point it out, I promise. In June, we'll get to reviewing your applications, and then in August, we'll turn around and present those applications to the board for approval for anybody who meets the requirements and is eligible to be a 2023 partner. Later in August, we'll make the grant agreements available and then send out your funding. Once those are available, you can get started utilizing those funds. But one thing to note is that in March of 2024, that is the deadline for accessing your grant funds. And then August 1st, this will be in your grant agreement if you receive it. That is the deadline to submit your final report in 2024. Now we can get into the application portion, all the good technical bits. So if you go to our homepage, tshac.org, you're going to come over to the nonprofits and government section, and you want to scroll down to the annual grants portion. Click on that, and you'll find that we have, let's see. This is our section with all the information you'll need to apply. Here's the application link to the online application. Again, the reminder for our deadline. We also have a few documents that I highly recommend looking over. Our program guidelines have all of our eligibility requirements, program household requirements in there for you to read through. And our FAQ section has almost every question that we could think of put in here so that we have quick answers. I'm happy to answer any question that you may have via email or phone call, but if you want an almost instantaneous answer, this is the best place to go besides the guidelines. And again, here's all the step-by-step instructions on how you can apply, but I'll walk you through it now. So here is our application portal. You'll see 2023, that's the one you want to be at. And if you're a new applicant and you've never applied using the SurveyMonkey system of ours, you're going to want to hit register and create an account. And once you verify that account, you can come back here and hit this green apply button. But since I have an account, I'm going to pretend that I'm a returning grantee and go ahead and log in. Wrong one. Okay. So I'm going to 2023 application. I'm going to hit apply and type in my application title. So I'm going to put TSHAC test 2023. We have guidelines on how you should name your application, and they're listed here. It's just your organization name as well as the year. So once you're in, you're going to be presented with an eligibility quiz. And it'll just be a few quick questions. Are you a 501c3? Yes. What kind of grant funding are you requesting? Let's go with supportive services. Do you plan on using these grant funds to serve an underserved population as required by our guidelines? Yes. Will you use your grant exclusively to serve people earning below 50% AMFI? Yes. Will you use your grant only in Texas? Yes. Will you spend 100% of your grant and complete all activities proposed in your application within 1 year? Yes. And this is for audits and financial requirements. We went over this a little bit beforehand, but as long as you have some sort of financial review, you can hit yes. Does your organization have 3 years operating in Texas? Yes. And does the program you're applying for have at least 2 years of experience? Yes. And then this is a question just to make sure that you don't have any sort of delinquencies or defaults. So I'm going to hit no. And if you're a returning grantee, do you have any outstanding requirements? If so, you might want to hit no, or complete them before submitting an application. But if you have already met all of your requirements, you're going to hit yes. But I'm going to pretend that I'm not a returning grantee right now and hit not applicable. I'm going to go ahead and fill out my organization name and mark this form as complete. Now, once the form is completed, you'll be able to see all of our application tasks over on the left-hand side, and you can just click through them one by one and fill them out. So organization, TSHAC. Well, I won't fill out all of this and make you sit through it, but you're just going to go in and fill out your address and contact information and whether or not you're a previous awardee. For the purposes of this application, I am not. Go ahead and fill out which counties you are planning to serve. I'm going to pick Travis because that's where TSHAC is. Pick your program type. Enter in your explanation of what underserved population you all will be serving. Again, we're very generous with our allowance for this. Pretty much any sort of justification, any way that you can certify that this is an underserved population, just explain it here and we'll take that into account. Then we get into our program narratives. You're going to tell us about your nonprofit, about your mission, your history, as well as what kind of programs you offer. And then in the next question, you're going to describe the grant that you're applying for grant funding for. Like how long have you operated the program? How many households are you serving normally per year? And how do you evaluate the income requirements that go into serving these households? Stuff like that. The next question, describe the need for your program in the community. Statistics, research data, anything that can back up why you need this funding, why this program is important, that's going to go right here. And then documentation. How do you do it? What kind of metrics, what kind of demographic information? How do you listen to clients and incorporate their feedback? All that stuff will go in question 4. Question 5, for supportive services applicants, you're going to provide your last year's budget. and go ahead and upload it here. We're gonna accept pretty much any format of file in this application overall, but just in case, if you want to check to make sure that your file is going to upload correctly, these are the accepted formats listed here for you. The next question will be just asking about technical assistance. Do you need any? We allow for up to 5% and 10% if you need it, but then you're going to have to just explain to us what you're using it for and put it right here in question 6. If you don't need up to 10%, you're just going to put not applicable. Question 7 is just an opportunity for you to explain any sort of complaints or litigation, disputes, etc., that are filed against your organization. Tell us what's going on, and we will go ahead and read your explanation right there. Now we're going to get into your organization's 501c3 internal revenue code form, and you're going to upload it as a PDF right here. Next is all the certifications. You're going to want to go through and check each one, with the exception of these few right here, where they'll say this is for critical repair applicants only, or supportive services applicants only. But if you are like me and I'm applying to be a supportive services applicant, you're just going to go through it and click as many that are applicable. We also encourage you to review the HUD and Texas Workforce Commission's websites, just to go ahead and learn a little bit more about fair housing laws. Now we're getting into the final portion of the application. You're just going to tell us how you communicate or how you plan to communicate the grants in your community. Let us know how you're going to get the word out there that your program is ready to serve households, and just drop that in right here. Now we're going to go ahead and get into how, if you're accepted, how would you like to receive your funding? We highly recommend ACH payments. They're electronic, they get to you quick, and all you have to do is upload your bank information here using our ACH request form, which is linked right there. We also offer a mailed check. It takes a little bit longer, but that option is available to you, and we're happy to send it out. Just pick whichever one. And once you have completed this application, you're going to click the green mark as complete button. Since I didn't actually fill the form out, it has this little half completed icon right here. But if I did actually go out and complete this whole form, it would have a little green check mark, just like this eligibility quiz does right there. And then you're going to go through and upload your list of your board of directors. And just go through these uploads one by one. That's all the rest of the application is uploads, like your recent financial statements. We do require that these are dated no earlier than March 31st of this year. But just, you can go ahead and upload that here. Your operating budget for 2023 for your organization. Again, if you need to check the accepted file formats, you can just go ahead and click that little link and it'll list them right there for you. And make sure as you're uploading these to hit the mark as complete button right there in the lower right-hand corner. And here is a huge explanation of how we are going to accept whether you're a large organization above $2 million, we'll accept your 2021 and 2022 financial audits, as well as the auditor required communication letter. This letter is often included in your audit document that you receive from your auditor, but sometimes it isn't. So that's why we listed it right there separately, just to remind anybody who receives it separately to go ahead and submit it as well. We're also going to require the 2021 and 2022 circulars, OMB circulars. Now, if your organization has a smaller budget size below 2 million, you're going to want to go ahead and submit your if you have them, your audits, your communication letters, your OMB circulars, or you're going to go ahead and submit your 2022 and 2021 financial statements and a reference letter from another funder who has supported you and your program. And again, mark that as complete. If you don't mark these as complete, I don't believe the portal will let you hit the submit button. But you're going to want to go ahead and mark them as complete, so that way your application will be turned in correctly and counted. This next one is IRS Form 990. You're just going to go ahead and submit it here. I believe we are asking for the 2022. And if that's not available, go ahead and submit your 2021 form. Funding sources, just go ahead and submit a list of government, corporate, foundation, contributors, etc., that have provided support within the past 3 years. Indicate the years, amounts, and which program that funding went to, and you're going to upload it here. Now, we also have a separate upload for your program funding sources. This is all the anticipated funding sources for 2023 for the program that you are applying for grant funding for. Include the dates, the amounts that you hope to get, as well as each funding source and whether that's committed already or you're still waiting to hear back from them. Now, these next two uploads are optional. Program materials, you're just going to go ahead and insert any marketing documents that just talk about your housing programs, the program that this grant will be supporting. It tells us a little more about you and all the great work that you do. And we like to see it. We highly encourage actually uploading these items because we like looking at them. Or at least I do. I know our team does. But yeah, just go ahead and upload that. It is optional, but the next one is a program highlights, any sort of statistics, reports, photographs of repairs or success stories, some good supportive testimonials, news, media, news, then you can go ahead and upload it here. Again, this is a chance to really toot your own horn and brag about your program. And we like to see it. So we encourage you to do that. Now, once you've marked all of these uploads and your application form as complete, you should have all of these left-hand side tasks with a green check mark. And once those are completed, you should be able to see right here, 1 out of 9 required task, or 9 out of 9 if you're ready to submit, required task complete. Once everything is completed, you can review your application. And then if you think everything looks good, go ahead and hit the one on the right, the submit button, which is going to go ahead and tell us that you've submitted your application. I'll get a notification of that everything looks good and is ready to review. And you'll also get a confirmation that your application has been submitted, so you know that you did it right. And again, behind that, below that, is just a reminder of the deadline and when we want to have that turned in. All right, and that is the application. Everything should be encased right there. If you have any questions, any difficulties navigating the portal, logging on, or if you're a returning applicant and you can't log into your past account, let me know. I'm happy to help. Shoot me an email or a call, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you want to do offline. But do we have any questions now, Michael?
Just wanted to highlight a few questions in the chat. As Kate pointed out, if you're a returning grantee, you will get your funds probably before, or maybe before you turn your report in. So let's say you're a 2022 grantee and your report's due in August, and we're going to approve you as another grantee for 2023. We realize there's some overlap between how long you have to turn in your report and when you'll get your funds. We're not going to hold up your funding if you haven't turned in your report. We're very, very well aware that there's some overlap. So Kate, thanks for pointing that out. You will be in good standing and you'll get your funding, so don't worry about that reporting deadline. And to Linda's question, yes, if you were late to this webinar or you need to share it with somebody else or didn't log on or if we messed up something on our end and didn't get you the invite link in time, we will house this on our Foundations Fund website. So this webinar will be available over there. And then, yeah, Judy's question about, yes, it'll save your progress while you go through the application. Once you log out, it will save whatever you've done so you can come back to work on it later. I did want to mention that earlier I said you can't request a funding amount, and that's true, you can't. But we realize that people have to budget around their programs, and you want an idea of what how much grant funding will be available to your program area, and we're sensitive to that. So I did want to highlight our funding from last year, and the small organizations, which were $2 million or less budget size, every award was $15,000. The medium organizations, which were for organizations $2 million to $10 million in budget size, every award was $23,000. And then for large organizations, everybody with a budget 10 million or more, the awards were $35,000 per organization. So if you are thinking about a range of what the anticipated grant amount will be, my guess is it will be in that $15,000 to $35,000 range, maybe a little bit less. So $10,000 to $12,000 for small, up to $30,000 for large. And that's all contingent upon how many applications we receive and that we ultimately approve. So like I said, last year was the most ever. We had 54 grantees, and we were still able to give out that award range of $15,000 to $35,000. So I feel comfortable in saying if you're trying to budget for your program for the next year, you probably think about that range depending upon your organizational size. Tammy, yes, our application system does timestamp the applications once submitted. And I can't emphasize enough that you want to make sure that you submit, because people have in the past have done everything in their application except hit that submit button. Give a few more minutes or some more minutes for questions. Do want to thank everybody for being on this webinar. Those people we've had on a Foundations Fund webinar, so we continue to garner a tremendous interest across the state in this program. And that's the other thing that we like about this, is that we're able to deploy money across the state. Julie, yes, you will get, Anna, do you want to explain what sort of confirmation they get?
Sure, it'll arrive to your email as soon as you hit the submit button. That way you know that you hit the right button and your application is correctly submitted. It'll go to, whichever email is used for the application user, creator, and collaborators.
Check your spam, junk, whatever email as well. SurveyMonkey Apply emails have gotten filtered out of my inbox in the past, so you want to be sensitive to that.
I do want to add real quick that you can add collaborators. So if you have a team of people trying to help you apply for this grant, you can go ahead and invite collaborators by clicking on the left-hand side and just type in their email and it'll invite them. They may have to create their own account, but I'm also available to help do this for you if you're having trouble doing it. But yeah, just wanted to remind everybody that that is an option, that you can have more than one contributor on your application.
Kate, we're not going to move the deadline earlier. The deadline is the deadline, and that's what we've communicated. And even if we get a lot of applications, we're going to keep that deadline in place. Judy, the threshold is $2 million or less, and you only have to do one or the other, either financial reports or a recommendation letter from a funder. All right, well, we'll go ahead and end the recording. If you have questions that you still want to either say in person or via the chat,